Welcome to the Family Law Channel. I'm Scott Drake with my guest, retired Superior Court Judge in Santa Clara, California, Eugene Hyman. Eugene, welcome back.
Thank you.
We don't get often the chance to talk about supermodels here on FLC, but in this case we are. Salma Hayek's husband may have to be digging deep into his pockets to come up with $46,000 a month in child support for a son that he fathered with supermodel Linda Evangelista. Now, people are talking about the high numbers here, but that's not with you, Judge. That's not the real issue here, because there's some interesting things going on in this case.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that this case, because it is so high profile, is an opportunity for your listeners to sort of understand the basic principles of how child support is set. Now, granted, this case is at the extreme in terms of value, but again, the principles are the same. The first thing that one looks to is, what is the percentage of visitation? That is, what percentage of the time is the son with each of the parents? Because that is extremely important, because obviously the person that they are spending the most time with is the person that's going to be spending the most amount of money with respect to supporting them. The second issue is, what is the income of each of the respective parents? Normally, the percentage of visitation and the income of the parents is usually not a matter that is highly litigated. It can be, and sometimes you have to be concerned about parents that want an increase in visitation, because one, the judge is concerned whether that's a sincere interest or effort on that part of the parent to want to spend more time with the child, or whether or not the parent wants an increase in visitation schedule in order to decrease the amount of support that they have to pay, since there isn't a relationship between the two. In this particular case, you're faced with a rather unique set of circumstances. Because of the excessive income of father, and I would also suggest with respect to mother, this is not your typical case where you go to one of several computer programs that are approved by each of the states in terms of determining child support based upon the percentage of visitation and the income of the individuals. This is an extreme high-end income situation, in which case the computer programs are not applicable. One of the concerns that the judge has is to make sure that child support is not supporting the parent who's the primary custodial parent. So in this case, mom. So that father is not supporting mother by the payment of a large degree of child support. Granted, mom lives in the same house as child, so to a certain extent there's going to be that kind of overlap. But again, child support is not to provide supplemental income to the primary parent at the expense of the non-primary parent. The next concern is, what are the basic needs or extraordinary needs in the case of the very wealthy? And as has been pointed out, child care is extremely expensive, because you have mom who's has a career as well as a fashion model, has certain responsibilities in terms of having to fly various places for shoots, has to socialize to a certain extent, to network, to generate business and things of that nature. Obviously, she doesn't want to leave her child with just anyone, and nor she have to do so. So you've got child care where you have to provide it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you have to have almost a relief set of child care providers. As a judge, I certainly wouldn't be skimpy with respect to child care. In other words, I'm not going to want the lowest and cheapest in terms of who's going to be taking care of this child. These parents can obviously support the best with respect to child care, and that's what I would expect, and that's what I would award. Also, with respect to limousine service and vacations and things like that. This is an upperly mobile family, and one would expect that these children are going to be, or this child is going to be exposed to the best of everything. And as a judge, in terms of awarding child support, that's reasonable. I appreciate, again, that the average listener is going to be totally unsympathetic and saying, hey, gee, if McDonald's is good enough for my child, why isn't it good enough for this one? And the answer is because it doesn't have to be, which is unsettling. But, again, the principles are the same in terms of what you look at, and that is, what has this child been exposed to? What are reasonable expectations? And the amount of money that's being requested on a monthly basis, given what we're talking about, is probably not unreasonable.
Right. So it's the same kinds of issues that most, families are going to have. This just has more zeros.
Absolutely. Exactly.
And I guess there's some special consideration, too, because she is an international fashion model. He is a billionaire.
Right.
So security is a big question. And one of
Absolutely.
the items here under expenses was drivers. Are drivers who are former police detectives, which
Right.
seems to me a totally rational thought, because
Absolutely.
one would assume that there's compared to the average person, there's more of a chance of a kidnapping or something like that.
Absolutely, and that's also reasonable. This child is at risk in terms of being kidnapped. This child is also going to go to the very best in terms of private schools, and is going to have the very best opportunities in terms of extracurricular activities. Is going to be able to go skiing in foreign countries during vacations, and is going to have the best of everything. And the fact that he was born into a wealthy situation doesn't mean that somehow his situation is downgraded because of that. It's going to be awarded with that understanding. Now, there are some things that can be negotiated. For example, sometimes parents at this income level negotiate what's referred to as either family support, or if spousal support is being paid, there might be an increase in the high-paying parent or the non-custodial parent might to say, look, I'm willing to pay an increase in part in spousal support and pay a little bit less in child support, and the reason for that is that spousal support is completely deductible to the person paying it and is income to the person receiving it. The other thing that can be negotiated, although it's not worth a great deal, is the tax deduction. Who gets to deduct a child, even though the child is maybe staying with mom predominantly, dad, for tax reasons, may want to get the deduction, and maybe there's ramifications with respect to insurance programs or the like, and therefore that might be important to the non-primary custodial parent, and that's also something that is negotiated. So my experience is that usually parents in these kinds of situations usually don't have their cases litigated. I mean, there's some squawking in the beginning. I mean, the press covers it, but invariably this is something that is settled very quietly. And it's usually settled in such a way that there's an agreement signed that does not mention numbers. And that's usually done for the sake of the child. You don't want that information out there. It's not fair to the child, and it can be used, especially with the concerns regarding security and with the concerns regarding the sharing of information throughout the world because of the internet. And so for those reasons and others, these kinds of things are usually settled very quietly, and the ultimate paperwork filed with the court, to the extent that there is any, just indicates that covenants that the parents will do certain things as agreed to between and amongst themselves without the necessity of actually recording those amounts in a court document.
Well, as always, when talking to you, we learn something we didn't know. Judge Hyman, thank you.
Thank you.
He is retired California Superior Court Judge Eugene Hyman, and you're watching the Family Law Channel here on the Legal Broadcast Network.